Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is a pleasure to warmly welcome you to this webinar, organized by the Ministry of Public Education as part of the Continuing Education Program for primary and secondary educational staff, taking place at the beginning of the academic year in February 2026. We truly appreciate your participation today. This professional development space has been designed to strengthen educational practice, address needs identified in every teaching context, and support a solid start to the school year, both in terms of institutional management and student learning. We hope you find this session useful, relevant, and enriching for your professional work. The title of today's webinar is Strategies for Interaction and Oral Production in the English Classroom. This session is aimed at primary and secondary English teachers from the Ministry of Public Education. Before we begin, allow me briefly to share the purpose of this session. The webinar aims to strengthen pedagogical mediation and curricular implementation in the English subject area at the primary and secondary levels through professional development activities articulated around strategic thematic axes. These activities are oriented toward the development of students' oral communicative competence, meaningful interaction, the design of authentic communicative tasks, all supported by the pedagogical use of emerging technologies and assessment for learning, in order to contribute to the development of English language competencies within the Costa Rican education system. This is Randall Centeno Hernandez, Regional English Advisor from Heredia Regional Education Office, who will be serving as the moderator for today's webinar. At this moment, we kindly ask all participants to please complete the attendance register, which is already available in the chat. Let me briefly outline how today's session will unfold. We will begin with the main presentation and conclude with a question and answer session. To continue with today's webinar, we will now introduce our specialists. It is our pleasure to welcome Mary Scholl, who is a TESOL educator and teacher trainer with more than 30 years of international experience. She's the founding director of the Institute for Collaborative Learning, I4CL. Her professional work is grounded in a communicative action-oriented approach with a strong emphasis on teacher well-being and meaningful learning. We also have Ivan Suazo, who is a specialist in TESOL and curriculum design with over 25 years of experience. He currently serves as Assistant Director of I4CL and is an international trainer recognized for his leadership in educational innovation initiatives and socio-emotional learning programs. Together, they represent the Institute for Collaborative Learning, an organization committed to fostering collaborative, inclusive, and innovative practices in English language education. Dear Mary and Ivan, you may begin now with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Randall. Thank you all for this opportunity to be with you. We are really excited and grateful for this opportunity to share with all the English teachers from MEP. It's amazing, really. It's amazing that you all have been doing this this work these last 2 weeks, this last week and this week. Yvonne, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone who is live on YouTube, and good day, everyone who is watching the recording. it is an honor to see. I was reading the live chat at the beginning of the session, so it's great to reconnect with teachers from everywhere in Costa Rica, from preschool to colegio. So we're so happy to be with you today. Thank you. Pass it over to you, Mary.
Use of
Thanks so
emergent
much.
technologies in
Okay, beautiful. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be doing sort of the main driving of our session today, and Ivan's going to be piping in when he'd like to, and also he'll be working with some of the comments on YouTube. I know there's a lot of comments there, so, and I hear they're flying. So Ivan's going to see what he's going to be like a little, you know, like the birds at the ocean that just dive down and come up with a fish. He's going to dive down and come up with the questions and see what we can do, because we'd love to interact with as many of you as possible. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and get us going. Ivan, is there anything in the chat right now that we want to pay attention to or respond to?
And now just the greetings from everyone. So I'll let you know when we have questions.
Everybody. Okay, what? Hold on a minute. I don't think I've shared the right thing. Let's see. Share a window. Here we go. Okay, great. Now can you see the first slide? Yeah. Okay, thanks. So this session today is to dive into strategies for interaction and oral production in our English classrooms. And it's for preschool, primary, and also high school. So that's kind of a broad range. But I think that a lot of the theory and the ideas that we're going to share are easily used across the board. So I look forward to hearing about how it is for you. As we get started, there's two things. I'm going to share this slide a few times. The blue QR code is a raffle. If you would like to participate in the raffle, you are welcome to. What we are raffling off is 9 opportunities to join our learning circles. We teach online, we teach TOEIC prep, we teach English language integrated skills, and we also have a conversation circle going. So if you'd like to try out for the raffle, or if you'd like to join us in our WhatsApp communities, you can go to that QR code and just sign up there. And the black QR code is our gift to you. It's the toolkit. It's in that you'll find everything that we're talking about in the webinar. There's a link to the slides, so you can copy the slides, and there's a lot more sort of the information on the slides that has been expanded. So we hope that this toolkit really gives you an overview. So feel free, and I'll share this a few times, but feel free to go to either of those, or both of them, or take a photo of it, and then you can go to it slowly in your own time. I'm going to change the slide in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Our objectives today. We hope that by the end of this session, all of us will envision oral production as a process, as a developmental process, not just performance. So often we think about speaking and oral production as the students performing and showing us what they know. But we want to look at it more as a process of them learning. We hope we recognize how the action-oriented approach supports oral production, speaking through tasks, mediation, and interaction. We have 4 main practical areas we want to look at: safety, scaffolding, modeling, and formative feedback. And I really hope that by the end of this webinar, you have at least 1 or 2, but maybe 10 concrete things you want to try in your classroom. Okay? What's most important is this message here on the left, that it is small shifts in our teaching, very small shifts that are grounded in safety, curiosity, and playfulness, that empower our students to explore, find, use, and live their voice in English. Right? So it's a small shift. We're not talking about making huge changes. we're talking about doing small things. And so I'm curious, in these next, we have 90 minutes, we have 105 minutes left. What are some small actions that you see that you think might be useful in your classroom? We're going to do a little welcome and framing. We're going to talk about a core framework that we're looking at for speaking as a developmental cycle, not as the final performance, but as a developmental cycle. We have 5 key messages. I apologize right now because I'm going to repeat them over and over again because I think that somehow getting these messages inside of us is the first step in us starting to decide, does this make sense for me in my classroom with my students, right? You all are the experts in your classroom with your students. You're the ones that know what is really going to make sense for your students. So 5 messages. Speaking develops through being and doing, living English. Safety is the foundation for participation. Safety first, second, always. Scaffolding supports our emergence, not perfection. So we scaffold language, we scaffold tasks so that the students emerge. The English emerges through the students. Modeling guides our interaction and our attention, and feedback is fundamental. Those are our 5 messages. And then we're going to have a little reflection at the end and closing takeaways and some Q&A. There is actually space in throughout this webinar for some questions on Mentimeter. So comments and questions we're going to ask after each message. So that's our agenda. Look, I told you I was going to repeat this over and over again, and already I'm repeating it. I am so predictable. Small shifts grounded in safety, curiosity, and playfulness empower students to explore, find, use, and live their voice in English. Right? And these are our 5 key messages. Right? Being and doing, safety, scaffolding, modeling, and feedback. I really can't wait actually to hear what they mean for you. All of this is part of, I know you've heard this before because you have been to trainings, but learners as social agents, right? The action-oriented approach is asking of us to understand that it is the learner who is the social agent who is doing the learning and living the English. And so in order to honor that, I need to create opportunities for real communication and participation. And I know you know this. I know you know this, but I also have to say it out loud because, at least for me, sometimes I know things and I still don't always understand the implications, or I don't put them into practice in ways that I could. You know, knowing is nuanced, and that's a good C1 word, by the way, nuanced. Knowing how we know things is nuanced, and there's layers. And so what I'm sharing with you, I know that you know on some level, and I'm hoping to add to the nuance and the layers that you already have. Yvonne, is there anything in the chat we need to pay attention to? Okay, great. Oh, here's the slide again for the raffle and the handout. Some people like to look at the handouts during presentations, so feel free to do that. You can also click and get the slides, or you can also wait. It's totally up to you. And I'm excited to see who wins the raffle and who gets to join us for a month in our online learning circles. So now I am curious. I know you've seen this before, that we have this progression from A1 to B2, that primary is really they're striving for participation and confidence and reaching A1 and A2. And in secondary, we're really working for more on the interaction and reasoning, and we're striving for B1, B2. Do you experience this progression? Please write in the chat in YouTube, and let's see what comes up. Oh. Let's see. Huh. Arelis, if you could make can you use your phone and take a photo of the QR codes? That might help. Let's see. I also there's no access to the QR code. Okay, let me quickly look at that. Here we have this here. Let's see, anyone with a link. Let me go ahead then and put the link. Copy. And Yvonne, can you put, you can write in the chat, right, Yvonne? Let me put this in the, oh, you granted them permission. Okay, great. I also just sent that to you through WhatsApp so you can share that. So let us know. Let us know if you've got it. And I'm curious about how you feel about the progression. Reading skills, reading skills. Okay, so we're not going to talk about reading skills today, I'm sorry, but we are going to focus on writing, but that's really good information for the national advisors. Don't know why you're not getting access. Please let us know in the chat if you have access. Oh, I see some people got if you have access to the toolkit. I see. Okay. Nube Azul, thank you. The access is working now. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Okay. I'm going to move forward. And now we actually would like to invite you to the opening poll, which we're going to do on Mentimeter. So if you click on this QR code, we have 2 questions for you to get started. What are 2 to 3 words that describe your experience of students' oral interaction in the classroom? And what are your biggest challenges to promoting oral interaction in your English classroom? So this is the QR code for the opening poll. Okay, great. Let's see where we are here. Let's start the presentation. If you haven't joined, you can see you can go to menti.com and put in 2505 5896. I'm so curious. I was so curious to see what you would say. Difficult. Challenging is the biggest one right now. And it's remaining the biggest, but there's some other beautiful ones. Difficult, motivation, frustrating, interesting, funny. Wow. Amazing. We have 155. If you can't get onto Mentimeter, you could also answer in the chat in YouTube. And I see some people doing that. Thank you so much. Alvaro writes, the biggest challenge is repeating multiple times with no results because they don't remember the previous knowledge, right? That is really hard, the retention. And so we need to think about what are we doing for retention? Looks like we've had 400 answers here, and challenging seems to be in the middle. It's fun to see the words that are the biggest. Creative, scared, shame, dynamic. For the people that are still requesting access to the slides, maybe refresh because it should be open now. You should be able to, or to the toolkit. Okay. I am going to move on to the next question, although I'm still so curious as these answers are coming in. It's really beautiful to see. See what you're saying. The biggest ones are the harder things, right? The frustrating, the challenging. I hope that our 5 messages today will address some of these challenges. I hope. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the next slide. these are some challenges, and I'm curious if any of these are your biggest challenges to promote oral interaction in your classroom. And thank you to everyone that was writing in the YouTube. It's fun to see your answers there as well. So far, what's winning are students are shy or afraid of making mistakes, and they don't have enough language, vocabulary or language to speak. I can see that. Students switching to Spanish, number 3. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, the access to the slides is also now anybody with a link can be a viewer. Sorry about that. I thought that was open. So people that were requesting access to the slides, just refresh and you should be able to get in now. Great. All right, well, it seems like the 3 big ones here are students who are shy, which would lead us to the safety issue. When they're shy and afraid of making mistakes, I need to create a safe environment. And if they don't have enough vocabulary or language to speak, I think that speaks to both scaffolding and modeling, which we're going to talk about. So those 2, I think, are the biggest. We're going to come back to Mentimeter. Right now, these are the first 2 questions. I think the 3rd one. Yeah, the next one. We're going to come back to this after message 1. So, but thank you so much for sharing. Yvonne, is there anything you want to add before I move forward?
Yeah, it's great to see, Mary, the interaction in YouTube. So many things teachers are sharing. So motivation, strategies in production, fear, limited vocabulary, afraid of making mistakes, shyness, not enough vocabulary, technical vocabulary, fear participation, inspiration, motivation, lack of participation. It's so beautiful to see how we can come together and share what we experience in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked for the QR code. I'm not sure which one it was. I'll share this briefly. Yeah, you are not alone in our challenges. Yeah. Somebody asked for the attendance link in the YouTube, just so you know. Okay, I'm going to move forward to this next slide, which is talking about a shift. I put a potential shift because I'm not inside your head. I don't know what you're thinking, but it could be a shift. I know that a lot of times when we are trained on oral production, speaking, we think about it as like an activity where they do a final task and we assess them and we think about that's the time for oral production. But the shift that we're inviting you to consider today is the idea that it's a shift from like doing an activity to the development process, that it's a development process and that small shifts can really increase participation. And so the idea is students aren't actually speaking because they know something and they want to show what they know. They're speaking in order to learn. They're speaking, they're working on their fluency before accuracy. And so it might be a shift. I'm curious if that's a shift for you, but I wanted to honor that, recognize that it might be a shift in the way that we're thinking about it. And we have a cycle that we like to go through, which is supported by the action-oriented approach. And the idea is that everything is surrounded by safety, first of all. Everything is surrounded by safety. And I know that in your context, safety means different things. And if you're teaching in a rural area, if you're teaching in a city, if you have a small class or a big class, I understand, like, we have a variety of contexts here. So I would really appreciate if you consider for yourself, what does safety mean to you? What does it mean to your students? Both physical safety, emotional safety, cognitive safety. Yeah, what is it for you in your context? And then we go through this cycle of an action of doing something, and then support through scaffolding, support through modeling, and noticing through modeling, and interacting in some way, and then they get feedback, and then we do an action again, and we keep going through this cycle over and over again. So this is sort of a developmental cycle that I keep in mind when I'm planning my classes. Like, where am I? Am I providing something for every color? I like to think in colors. And so it's like, is every color present? And this is really a bridge that we need to create and go over and traverse. I tried to sprinkle some C1 words in there for all of us. Traverse, I think, is a C1 word. But we're going from controlled practice to authentic interaction. And the interaction is the way, it's the pathway. So our first message, I'm going to start in on our first messages, is speaking develops through being and doing. So students belong in interaction, they're being and they're acting with language, so they're doing. So when I think about my classroom, am I envisioning my students being in English, right? And there's a few there's a few theory bits that I'm also going to offer you today, which maybe you already know, or maybe this is going to remind you of going back to university. But Marilyn Swain output hypothesis, I think, is a really helpful one to hold as we think about our practices. So I'm going to share a little theory, and then we're going to look at activities that you can do to bring this theory to life, right? So our output hypothesis is that we don't acquire language just by receiving input, right? It actually, I have to produce in order to get the language inside of me, right? So it could be speaking or writing. So our output work isn't just practice, it actually helps the learners develop the language, right? And it's really important to notice this gap in when I want to say something that I can't quite say yet, right? Or when I'm curious and I'm testing out a hypothesis, like, is this right? Do I get it? Language develops, speaking develops through being and doing. So here are some examples for the primary classroom, well, actually primary and high school. These are some different tasks you can do. And somebody in the YouTube asked about developing tasks. So I'm curious by the end of this session, if we've answered your question. Let's see. So if we design meaning-driven speaking tasks, which means that the task is requiring the student to make meaning. So we have like the describe and draw, which is like an information gap. So as a teacher, I might describe a monster or an animal or some shapes in primary and have the students draw what I describe. Or a student could describe their monster to another student and they draw it, and there's an information gap, and the meaning is in the actual drawings that the students either are describing or drawing. Right? So my monster, my students could be sitting back to back, and they could do that as an information gap. Same kind of thing in high school. You could describe a room, describe a city, a map, just a little bit more complicated. But when we do information gap activities, and describe and draw is one of them, their meaning is implicit in the work, and it really forces authentic communication. Another way of having meaningful speaking tasks is when we tell our own stories, right? When I'm telling my own story of something that's meaningful to me. So whether like primary, you might share your favorite toy, or in high school, a favorite app or a song or a photo on your phone. When we share things that are meaningful to us, it really helps us be in English as well as do with English. So those are two examples. There's more in here. There's more in the toolkit. But those are two examples of designing meaning-driven tasks. We could also design tasks that kind of push language growth. So as an example, adding one more detail. So when my student, I asked my student, you know, like, how was your day yesterday? Well, how was your day? And they say, it was good. I said, well, can you tell me more? Right? Can you add more detail? Or can you tell me why it was good for a high school student? So when we push our students to add a little bit more detail, it helps them be in English as well as do. So because plus two reasons is very similar, we're pushing them for a little bit more. Reformulating, asking them to say it again or say it better. And then also the precision challenge. Oops. Ooh, we went way ahead. The precision challenge of, you know, can you tell me, but can you use 3 adjectives? Right? So we ask them, we give them a little challenge and we push them a little bit. That gets our learners thinking and being and doing. Another kind of design task we can do for being and doing is when we design collaborative problem solving. And I know you all are very familiar with this, but ranking tasks or constraints. So kids are going on a picnic, but they only have 10,000 colones. How are they going to spend it, right? So they have to decide. Or mystery, where they have to figure things out, or designing something. These are collaborative problem-solving tasks. That really helps them be and do in English. And the final design for tasks for being and doing is the structured interaction. And I also know that you all know these sort of the classic finding someone who, where you have a survey and you go around and talk to people, and you can structure it where they have, you know, 1 minute to talk to somebody and then they change, or you can make it a little bit freer and they walk around. You can do role plays, turn taking, talking, or when information gap is another kind of structured interaction. These are some suggestions for how we can see speaking as a development process through being and doing. And I'm curious in the next, let's see, let's go to the next slide here. I'm curious, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? We'll take just a minute here. You design tasks with meaning, stretch, collaboration, and structure. Output becomes the driver of learning, not just practice. So if we go back to the Mentimeter, what do you think? Start with here. So let's see what comes up here. What are your thoughts or questions or comments on this idea of speaking as being and doing in the classroom? Hi, Asdrubal. Thanks for the cheers. Natalia writes, she asked her students to create a restaurant and create their own menu. That's beautiful. Yes, being and doing. So Zaida talks about students needing to master vocabulary and grammar to do oral presentations. Yeah, this work I'm talking about, Zaida, is before the oral presentations. It's like what we do to get them there. And Dark 9326 says it's complicated when you have 30 students with different capacities on progression. Yes, absolutely complicated. Absolutely complicated. I am not denying that. And that's one reason I think it's important to think about what's something small I can try, as opposed to it's not a big change, they're small changes. And we've got 5 messages, so hopefully in the 5 messages there'll be something that you would like to try, that you think you can try with multi-leveled larger classrooms, right? Collaboration, real life situation makes a difference. Going is the key. Yeah. Good idea, but the time we have is not enough. Yes, I understand that we have limited time. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. If you look in the toolkit, you'll find more activities for sure. When I have larger groups, there's a couple things I do in terms of this kind of oral production that for example, I'll do choral production, or I'll do some more choral chanting back and forth, but they'll divide them into groups or sections. And so I'll have different sections respond. I'll have different sections talk back and forth to each other. And so that kind of speaks to safety too, because another hard thing when we have big groups is the students feeling safe enough to talk, for sure. Yeah, hold on one second. I have got something in my eye. Great. Thank you for your comments here. It's great to see. Let's move on to the next message, message number 2. And I'm going to actually move on to this one here. Do ready? Good. All right, message number 2. Safety is first, second, and always. Safety is the foundation for oral interaction, right? I mean, I think we know that ourselves as language learners, that we don't speak if we feel like it's too risky, right? So our students will speak when they feel safe. Participation grows through trust and structure. Like if they know enough about the structure, it makes it easier to experiment with the language. And the thing is, it's not an extra. This is the big message. It is not an extra. It is fundamental. So the second language acquisition theory spotlight here, I'm sure you all know about the affective filter, right? That the different emotional variables influence how much language input we can have. Because when our anxiety is high, we are not as open, right? We're not as open to whatever's going on. And I am sure that all of you have experienced that yourselves in person. Learners feel like, I think learners learn more when they feel safe making mistakes, when they know what to expect, there's some clear routines, when they feel supported, they feel they belong, and they have some choice and control. You know, sometimes I think that one's a big one, having choice. And I can give them a choice about whether they want to stand up or sit down, or I can give them a choice around what answer they give to a question. So the choice, looking at where choices are in the classroom for students, I think is a really interesting lens into safety. Another second language acquisition theory spotlight that I also want to share that might not be as common is this willingness to communicate by McIntyre. And it refers to our readiness to communicate in the output part, right? So language development's not only on ability, but the choice to speak. And it's a choice. It's always a choice. So if the learner has time to think, if they know what to say and how to say it, if they feel the interaction is low risk, if they care, I think all these messages are all interlinked, right? If it's meaningful and they care, and if they feel confident in that moment, all of that helps students feel safe enough to produce. Oh, thanks. Mariela says that her #1 rule in the classroom is respect and a safe place to be and speak. That sounds great. I'd love to come learn in your classroom. It's great to see the people who are agreeing. I also love seeing where you're saying hello from CTP Guarari. And Melissa writes, hi, Melissa. Yes, that meaningful phrase of connection before education, connection before direction. Thanks, Melissa. That's beautiful. Okay, so here's some implications, ideas. You might already do them. These might fit in your world. They might not fit in your world. I think it's as helpful sometimes when we say, oh, yes, I like this, I want to try it. And also like, oh, that doesn't sound good to me, but I would rather do X, right? But I would rather do, when you make a decision about what you want to do with your students, that is the most powerful thing. And your willingness is the highest predictor for success, right? So in primary, we can have some predictable routines, like every day we say, hello, today we will do something. Or every day we start out with a song, and then we start out with everybody greeting each other. Play-based language, low stakes speaking first, where everybody talks together, and then there's a partner talk, and then the whole class. Playfulness, gentle correction, gentle feedback, and recasting. And then belonging and praise for effort. I think belonging is important in both, in everywhere for sure. But I think with primary, it's really important to offer them support for the effort and for taking risks and for making mistakes. You know, we can always say, what was the best mistake made today? And what did we learn from it? In high school, the psychological safety gets a little bit more complicated, right? It's easier to deal with people laughing at mistakes. So it's like, how do I work with that in the classroom, right? I also think that as we get to be teenagers and adults, we need private rehearsal time before we produce publicly. Choice. We all need choices, even if they're little choices at some point in the classroom, for sure. And feedback that is not, does not provoke shame. Right? That's another big thing that starts in our teenage years. And then confidence building tracking, like helping students notice their own small accomplishments. That's going to help them feel safe as well. Let's see, Vaughn just sent me a message. Thanks. Estella Booth Brown writes, students need to practice the language a lot in class, and that's why we need to motivate them every day. Yes, I always tell my students, it's like we have 41 precious moments right now, precious minutes, or 39 minutes. How can we make these 39 minutes count? Right? How can I make the next 75 minutes of your time count? I hope this is useful and count for you. And Axel Edit 64 says, what age is it better recommended to do this type of activity, such as conversatories for small group talking? I think we can do small groups oral interaction tasks at all ages, right? The classroom management would be different for primary than for high school. And of course, in high school, with the different kinds of high schools you have, knowing your students. But I think that small group conversation is absolutely critical for all our language growth. Yeah. Yvonne, is there anything you want to add to some of these things that have been going on here? You've been doing a great job of the chat, but I want to give you a voice as well, if you'd like it.
Oh, thank you, Mary. As you said earlier, it is so beautiful to be seen and to be heard. So teachers are sharing the challenges they're facing and the different strategies that work for them. So it's great to compile, different strategies and to see which one which one works works in my learning context. It's beautiful to see different ideas echoing what you're saying, and also being sharing this link to the slide and the toolkit, so you can have access to it too. Thank you, Mary. Back to you, Mary.
Oh, thank you so much, Ivan. There's a couple of comments here that I really loved. Let's see if I lost. Somebody was asking for the attendance list. I know somebody will be taking care of that. But the idea that mistakes are normal, and that, oh, I love this. A fun and enjoyable class is paradise for both learners and teachers, right? So I'm curious, how many of you all live paradise? Not all the time, but like that paradise of fun with your students, maybe let's say for at least twice a week, 3 times a week. I'm curious about that. And that's what I aim for as well. I know that sometimes learning is hard and it's a push, but if I can help create joyful experiences, I think it's really helpful too. So beautiful. A few more ideas on the willingness to communicate. And, you know, it's interesting for me, I get the affective filter. The willingness to communicate, I think, is also important theory to play around with. How do I bring that to life in my classroom? How do I help my students develop the willingness or see the willingness? And so these are some ideas, you know, in primary, some and I think that's for high school too, speaking frames and sentences. That gets into modeling, which we're going to talk about in another message. But partner structures that make sure that everyone has a turn, the fun factor, we love that. Repetition is, so intentional, mindful, and playful repetition, I think, is phenomenal to get the people the willingness to communicate. One of the little techniques I do in my classroom is if we're doing like a response thing and I'm trying to work on pronunciation. Let's say we were working on the pronunciation. What was something we just did recently in one of our classes? Cousin. So the students I was with, they were saying cousin, and it's cousin. It's that schwa, cousin. So one thing I do is I'll say cousin, and then I want everybody to say it to me 5 times. So not once, but 5 times. And so then I would say cousin, and they would say cousin, 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 cousin. All of a sudden, they've done 500% more production, 400% more production, right? So that just the expectation, and my students know that they have to say things many times. You know, we talk about how many times you have to say something to learn it, but then I build that into their practice, right? That supportive repetition. And then the other thing that I like to do, if I need more supportive repetition, I'll say, can you say it with a certain emotion? So I'll say sadness. So like cousin, 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 cousin. I'll say joy, cousin, 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 cousin. So adding the emotion in all of a sudden gives us this kind of supported repetition that they're probably not even noticing how much they're producing in their output. And then the micro success moments, we have to look at our micro successes. I always say, success helps build success. And as much as a teacher, sometimes I want to note where they need to improve. I feel like if I can note 100, like for each place of improvement, if I can give 2 celebrations of success, that's a good ratio to help develop willingness. So that might be an interesting question for you. Like, how often are you noting micro successes, and how often are you offering reasons for improvement? So for high schoolers and adults, thinking about planning time and language support, so giving them time to prepare what they're going to say can help improve their willingness to speak. Having meaningful tasks with real audiences, very low risk entry points, like starting with a poll or a ranking or something anonymous, helps them get ready to speak. And then again, the repeated cycles really helps. So I'm going to go back to the Mentimeter. I'm curious, how do you feel about safety first? What do you do for safety in your classroom? And what are your thoughts on message number 2 about safety? I'm going to leave that open, and I'm going to see Yvonne has sent a few more questions. 32 Warlock asks, how will be the best way to keep students active and interested during 4 hours of English for communication classes? I love that question. Thank you. I think having some kind of habit, something that they know that they have to do, like I'm guessing it might be 4 individual hours in the week. So in that hour, what's your cycle in the hour? Like, do I open class with a tongue twister, for example, or a poem? Do I put a challenge out there and say, hey, can you stump the teacher? Can you find a new vocabulary word that I don't know? So sometimes I'll add a little of that. I think it's important to have conversation habits around, like, for example, I might have a set of questions on pieces of paper in a jar, and every day or every 2 days, they have a habit of finding a partner, choosing a question from the jar and talking about it, so that they know that they're going to be doing this constant conversation. And then the other piece, 32 Warlock, that I think is important is reflection, feedback and reflection. And I'm going to talk about that in our message number 5. So we'll get to that. So I hope, Gabriel Segura 5464, that we've given you some concrete examples. I'm curious to see what you think. And let's share the presentation and see what answers have been said here. I'm guessing, oh, they haven't come in yet. Okay, let's see. What are your thoughts, your questions, your ideas on message number 2? There's also a question here, Franco SFZ. They're curious about how to develop this sense of assessing their right sense of advancement. I think that's really, one way is for them to be using rubrics themselves, or, I know some teachers like to put objectives on the board. I like to put like can-do statements. So, and I usually have like 3 criteria. So for example, there's no way I can do that. I kind of can do it. I can do it with confidence. So I might, if I give you this word, if I say to you, here's a word for you, new mono ultra microscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Are you a 1, a 2, or a 3? 1 is, there's no way I can say that right now. 2, I kind of can say it. 3, I can say it with confidence. New mono ultra microscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Where are you? So I get my students in a habit of doing these little micro self-assessments. It helps me as a teacher see, I can't see you all, and these 5,000 of you here, but it helps me see my students and check in with them and help me know a little bit about what else I can do with them. So I hope that is useful. And the thoughts on message 2, agree, true, self-confidence, practice is everything, confidence is essential. Yeah, thank you all. Yeah. Yeah, I knew you would. I knew you already knew this, but it's also good to see that you're seeing this. I think about it. It's amazing. There are 5,000 of you throughout all of Costa Rica. That's amazing, right? And you're in agreement that you want safety in the classroom for your students. You are not alone. We are not alone. Beautiful. Thank you for these questions, for these messages. Great to see. Try it. Yay, try it. Awesome. Somebody says, I'll try and put a song and dance with them so they feel relaxed. That's great. Okay, a couple more questions from the YouTube chat or comments. Brainer writes, building habits and classroom expectations should be more visible in our classrooms in Costa Rica. I agree with you, Brainer. I think around the world, because we probably didn't grow up with that habits and expectations so visible, we might not have seen them. And so I think I'm so happy you noticed that. And it's a nice challenge for all of us to think, how do we make it more visible? And Jairo, thank you for writing. The most important is to provide students with an environment which they can express themselves with confidence. Jairo, I want to give you a little twist on this. And this is for all of us. Over the last few years, I used to think, yes, I provide an environment, but we are using a different verb now at the Institute for Collaborative Learning. We're talking about co-creating an environment. Like I can't completely create, even though I'm the main person doing all this talking right now, you all are co-creating this session with me and with Yvonne, right? Because you're interacting on the chat, you're participating in the Mentimeter, or even if you're not participating, if you're sitting in your classroom and you're having a nice cup of coffee, I hope you have a good cup of coffee, or tea or water, even just by paying attention, you are co-creating this experience. And so now with my students, I think, oh, we're co-creating the environment. What can I do to get my students to intentionally co-create the environment with me? Small shifts, right? Small shifts can make a big difference. Okay? Interesting. Yeah. Great. Thank you all so much. Let's go to message 3. I'm going to go on to the next slide here. Message 3. Wait a minute. Message. We just talked about message 3. Oh, my slides might be messed up. Oh, well, let's see. Safety first. If you need the QR code for the raffle or the toolkit, it's right there. Feel free. And yeah, message 3, scaffold, scaffold, scaffold. And you know what? I'm going to do a quick, sorry guys, I'm going to do a very quick thing because I'm going to fix my Mentimeter in front of you. Because I am very curious about it. So I see that in my Mentimeter, I had 2 message. So this is a chance for you to stretch. Why don't you guys take a little stretch break while I quickly make this change? And yeah, so safety, here we go. Little stretch break, little coffee break. It's been an hour. I think that's a good coffee. There we go. Now I can learn from you afterwards. Beautiful. Okay. Now we're back. So I just showed to you that I am human, that we are human. And I appreciate your grace with that. Okay, message 3. Message 3, scaffold, 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 scaffold. Right? Scaffolding supports emergence, not perfection. Again, this gets us the idea of development. We're working on oral production for development, not necessarily for final product production perfection. Scaffolds are bridges, and I want us to think about that. Like, what is the bridge I'm giving my students? What is the bridge I'm giving my students? So our second language acquisition theory spotlight, ZPD, zone of proximal development and mediation. Our lovely Vygotsky has given us so much, right? It's that space between what a learner can do independently and what they can do with guidance, and then what they really can't do. Now, we just talked a little bit about measuring the small successes. And remember, I asked you 3 things. Like, if I said to you, new mono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, one of the longest words in English, new mono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, is that easy for you to do? You can sort of do it, or is it outside your zone of development? Like, that's outside. So ZPD comes up in our assessment too. And I'm curious with my learners, where are they when they say that word cousin, by the way? So I talked about the pronunciation of cousin earlier. Is that easy for you to pronounce? Are you still sometimes saying cousin, or are you saying cousin? So is it still in progress, or is it too difficult? I really want to say cousin, and I can't hear the schwa, the. So where are you? Zone of proximal development comes up in many ways, and it tells me how to scaffold, where to scaffold, right? Learners can do more with support than they can do alone. There is no way, I'm going to do a little slight detour here. There is no way that AI is taking over your job. Our jobs as teachers are always going to be necessary. Our students need our support, right? So, let's see. Great. Thank you, Teacher Hansel. New mono ultra microscopic silicoconiosis. It's black lung disease. Let me show it to you. New mono. Oh, there it is. Longest, one of the longest words. New mono ultra microscopic silicoconiosis. I learned that in 9th grade from my 9th grade teacher. So now I do use it when I'm teaching teachers because it makes you go, what? Right? It makes you think, what? And it takes you into that third of like, oh, there's something I don't know. How do I get into the number 2 and into the then in number 1, right? So learners grow when they attempt tasks slightly beyond their independent ability. They get guidance. They co-construct. Here's our co-construction work here, language with peers. They use tools to bridge the gaps, and they gradually take over responsibility. Learners grow. Those are really important little bits to remember. So in primary, these are some implications here that you can model and then invite participation. The teacher demonstrates a dialogue and the students repeat with variation. Use sentence frames, guiding through questioning. What comes next? Can you tell me more? Structured pair work. Oops. And then one thing we often do is we put support out there, visual support for their production, and then gradually take it away. So I might have, I might write the dialogue up on the board and then erase some of the words, and then erase some more of the words, and then erase all of the words, right? So gradually removing support. But the important thing is that support in the beginning is visible, concrete, and structured. In high school, I feel like you can do the same things that we do in primary, but then we can also do more because their thinking skills are higher, right? So we need to use more of those higher order thinking skills, use more feedback instead of direct correction. You know, I might not immediately give an answer. I might say, well, tell me that you're almost there, but you need a little bit more. Try again, that kind of thing. Have them work with peers and leverage the peer teaching. Same thing with taking the structure away over time. Start out with the visual structure and then take it away bit by bit. So those are some ideas. And I'm curious, let's go into message 3. What do you think about scaffolding? Let's check out our Mentimeter and also in our YouTube. Variento77 says, as a teacher, I have to show myself confident, humble, trustful, and so do students, so they'll be in the mood for learning more efficiently. I so agree. I so agree. Melissa, the first time you heard pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanicosis, you thought it would be impossible to learn, but practice makes perfect. Yes, you were in a number of our trainings and courses, and so you know my gig. That's great. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's see what your thoughts are here on 3, scaffolding. We've got 2,000 people on our Mentimeter. That's awesome. Would anybody like some coffee? Thoughts, questions, opinions, radical opinions on scaffolding in the classroom? Questions? Hi, Choco. My dog wants to go for a walk. We have one more. If we have 50 minutes left, and then we'll go. Great. Learning is not linear. Agree. Give support. Great. Yvonne, is there anything you'd like to add in? Uh-oh.
Hey, Mary, thank you. I'm enjoying the comments in the chat. Continue reading as we have almost 2,500 participants. And I'm gratitude in all as teachers saying that they're finding information useful. So Jesse Hidalgo wrote in the chat a few minutes ago, what you're sharing is information that is refreshing and encouraging to improve our classroom every day. And Angelica Garcia said, it's not simply to make students speak more, but to help them feel brave enough to be heard. That's a great, the beautiful to see teachers are sharing more about what they're getting from this, the takeaways before this session has ended. So that's beautiful to see that. And thank you for sharing what you're learning, what you're taking away, what your thoughts are about. And I hope, as you said at the beginning, Mary, we find answers to different challenges we're facing. Thank you. Pass it to you, Mary.
All right. Thanks so much. I see somebody says Cafecito de los Santos. Oh, send it here. Send it here. Black coffee, no sugar. I love coffee too. That's awesome. And I'm glad to see that these comments on scaffolding is the foundation here. I think it's, yeah, it's so important. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, let's move on to message 4. Let's see. Message 4. Model to be noticed. Model, model, model. So modeling is next. My dog really would love some attention. Come here, Choco. Venga. Modeling is something, okay, so there was a comment earlier of like, hey, my students aren't remembering the language, right? Like, I taught that yesterday. Why don't you remember? I so get that, right? And I think the theory in this particular message about modeling is something that is really important and speaks to that. It's about noticing. How many of you, like, think back to your time in high school. How many classes do you actually remember? Or how many moments do you actually remember? And I know that not many, considering we had 5 years of high school, right? And so when the teacher, somebody wrote in here that we need to be humble. We need to be humble and realize that, like, our teaching is really important. And my student 10 years from now was not probably going to remember everything that we're doing. It would be nice if they could remember it tomorrow or the next day. I agree. And what can I do to promote that remembering, to co-create that remembering, to co-direct that remembering? And noticing is so powerful. So this theory for me is so important. Schmidt, the noticing hypothesis. We improve when we notice language features and meaningful input. When there is time for me to go, yeah, is it cousin or cousin? Like, I'm noticing and I'm questioning my own, and it's not about the teacher telling. It's not about the teacher telling. It's not about the teacher telling. This is something super important to get. We have a model we use, and we are a stage we call clarifying. And it's the noticing. And it's how can I co-create moments where students are noticing something and asking questions and getting curious, right? Like somebody wrote in the chat, new what? New mono what? Right? You're curious enough to write something in the YouTube chat. That's awesome. That's noticing, right? So how can I get my students to notice a word, a feature, a discourse pattern, paying attention, and then try and use it? Like when this is that repetition thing too, where I'm trying to say it, like numano atra, and I'm trying it. I'm trying it out. And then I make adjustments based on feedback. This part of learning is what makes it stick. One important thing that makes it stick is the noticing. And it's one area that I feel like I'm going to make a vast generalization here. May not be true. I think all of us could grow in this area of it, because I know we don't have time. We say we don't have time. I'm going to play around with that. Not today, but I'm going to think about how can I promote more noticing, even though I feel like I don't have time. But promoting noticing. Here's a few ideas. Is modeling helps us promote noticing. And there's a million ways to model. Task modeling, language modeling. So I show the task and then they do it. They watch me do it. I model the language. I say pneumano ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, and then you try saying it, and we go back and forth. Thinking aloud, peer modeling, sentence frame modeling. I give them starters and stems. There's lots of kinds of modeling, and I know you probably already do a lot of these. All right. In the primary classroom, I think these are 5 particular ways of modeling that help students notice. The teacher demonstrates first, and then, by acting out the game with one student. Always demonstrating from the perspective of the student, right? Now, even though I'm demonstrating, it doesn't mean that every student is awake and paying attention, right? So, one other thing that I often do to help notice is concept checking questions, right? But modeling could be the group, the choral model, pair model, independent trying, right? Sentence frames, gestures and intonation, recasting. He go to school? Oh yeah, he goes to school. I just recast it and keep the communication flowing. Those are a few examples. There are many more. With high school and with adults, I often model the final product. I want to show them what the final product looks like, and then help them move in that direction. So often, like we can give it a task without modeling the final product. We don't help our students. It's not as easy to get there because the students don't know what the goal is. It's not only what we expect, it's like what the goal is, right? So I model the process. I think out loud. This is how I'm thinking about this, right? Model upgrade moves, model interaction skills. So modeling. I'm curious, how do you feel about modeling and noticing? Let's go back into our Mentimeter here, and I'll also pick up the YouTube questions. Let's see. Oh, dogs scare you. Yeah, my dogs are big dogs. They look scary, but they're sweet. I think one of the challenges with the adults, somebody said modeling is perfect when working with children. Yeah, children are a little bit more, I don't know, agile. I think sometimes with adults, it's like I have to co-create conditions for them to pay attention, to notice. And a lot of times, one of the other things I've seen, I've observed a lot of teachers over my years, and I've seen a lot of teachers start to teach without taking the time to get students' attention. And then they get upset, you get pissed off, like they're not paying attention. But it's like we need to prepare our students to notice as much as we need to teach, right? That's part of the co-creating here. So let's see how we're doing here. Oh, let's go to number 4. Start presentation, modeling. I need that you concentrate and pay attention to me. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's hard to pay attention, right? We're all human. Right. Yeah, this is a nice comment. Modeling guides attention without interrupting communication, which means you show what to do instead of stopping to explain it. People learn by watching and the conversation keeps flowing. Yeah, absolutely. Show. Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing this with us. They need modeling to create a sense of comfort. Exactly. Like all of these messages are individual, but they're also intertwined, right? They all serve each other. They all come together. Yeah, I like this one. Somebody wrote, key strategies include activating prior knowledge using the I do, we do, you do method. Yep. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Yvonne, anything you want to add into the modeling world here?
Yeah, Mary, many teachers agree with the idea, the importance of modeling in class and the impact it has on students and their learning process. So it's beautiful to see, yeah, they like the idea and then taking these ideas to bring it to the new school year. Pass it to you, Mary.
Thanks. I like this message too. Modeling is more important than explaining. You know, if the student is paying attention and noticing, I totally agree. I sometimes find myself explaining and I'm like, am I just kind of talking into the void? But if I get the student's attention and they have a task that they're noticing, then modeling makes a huge difference. Yeah, beautiful. All right, it is 11:18. Let us move forward to message number 5. Oh, there's the link again for the raffle. I don't know if you need it, but I'm going to put it in there because we're getting close. Let's see, we've got, how many people have signed up for the raffle? Oh my goodness, people. I wish I could give away more. We have 1,011 people who have signed up for the raffle so far. That's exciting. Ah, beautiful. I wish I could give away more, Yvonne. Oh well. Okay, message 5, last but not least. Be generous with feedback. Feedback shapes future communication. And it's not about immediate correctness necessarily, right? So it supports the next cycle of speaking. Overcorrection reduces risk-taking, right? If I overcorrect, it can make it less safe for me. But formative feedback really helps our learners grow. So I want to share a little bit. Our SLA here is Michael Long, Lister, and Ranta. We know that feedback helps learners develop when it draws attention to the form without shutting down communication. So this is probably the biggest message for this little message bit here, is that how can I give feedback without interrupting communication? Because it's that communication, that being and doing and having real communication that we want to keep flowing, right? So the feedback is going to help learning when it helps learners notice the gap and adjust their language, right? And not all feedback is equal. Feedback is most effective when it's timely, focused, understandable, and emotionally safe. And that's a big one, emotionally safe. What is emotionally safe for one person might not be emotionally safe for another person. So this is where it gets a little complicated, right? So, and learners develop when they try to express their meaning, they get feedback, they notice the gap, they attempt to repair, and they reuse the improved form. That's sort of the cycle that we're trying to do. Let me share with you some common types with examples for feedback, which I think you probably know these. I think you probably do them. So if it seems simple, maybe you think, oh, which do I usually do? Which do I not do so much and would like to try to do more of? Right? So recasting, where I model the correct form. The student says, he go yesterday? And I respond, oh, he went yesterday. Okay. Clarification request, where I tell you something's unclear. She do the homework? And this teacher says, sorry, what do you mean? Oh, she did the homework. Okay. Right? Elicitation, where we push the learner to self-correct. The student says he go to school, and I say he, or maybe I give a signal, right? Meta-linguistic hints. I give a rule cue, not the answer. He go to school. I say, remember the third person singular? He goes to school, right? Or he went to school. If you remember the past tense, whatever you're working on. So the meta-linguistic hint brings it to a whole nother level, brings their attention to a different place. Repetition with emphasis, highlighting the error. The student says she have a dog, and the teacher says she have a dog. She have. Explicit correction, where the teacher just straight up correct. He goes home. The teacher says went. We say went, not goed. Okay. These are 6 common ways. There are many other ways to offer feedback, but remember, the goal of our feedback is not perfection. It's helping learners notice and repair while communication stays meaningful. So I'm curious, do you do all of these? Do you have a favorite one? Do you have one of these that you don't like to do? Some implications in the classroom. In primary, I probably would recast. I start out recasting or selective correction. Each week, we focus on one aspect. Try again, almost, being playful in that sense. Feedback through modeling, which we talked about, and also safety we talked about. And in the high school, I would use prompts if they can self-correct. I always would like to try to help them self-correct. Use feedback after the task, not during the task, right? I think we all know that during the task, we want to just really focus on helping them communicate and have that flow. We can also teach our students to give each other feedback or to explore together the questions they have, and then have feedback cycles where they do a round of something, we give them feedback, and then we do round 2 of something. Right? I think that's also really helpful for teenagers and adults. Okay, what do you think about feedback? That was a fast number 5. Let me go back to here and open it up and go on to the next one. What are your thoughts on feedback? And I'm also going to go back to the QR code in case you need it. I see Yvonne sent me a message from Alvaro Gamboa, 1196. Once students start to feel confident, not only with a teacher, but especially with the rest of the class, you can get more and more students participating. At first, it's hard for them. Absolutely. I think our relationship, I mean, Alvaro, you're speaking to the heart here. We're speaking to the preaching to the converted here. We at the Institute for Collaborative Learning are all about knowing that our relationship with ourselves and our learners is what we contribute to co-creating a great learning environment. And that's Beduarte says, what can I do with a student who doesn't like to speak even in his own native language? Well, that's a great question. I think that not everybody wants to speak, right? Not everybody. First of all, we have introverted people, and I think I didn't put anything about introversion and extroversion in the toolkit. I'm going to add that tomorrow. So if you want to come back to the toolkit tomorrow, I want to add something on that, because this question is really important. Learning, we need to create space for introverts and extroverts. And there are certain things that I can do in the classroom to support my introverted students. One thing for students that don't like to speak in groups, is to have them in pairs or in small groups first, and then have one person from the small group speak to the whole class. I would also give them, somebody who doesn't like to speak, I would give them a chance to practice many times. I might put everybody in groups, and then I would talk to them myself as a teacher to see if talking to me could help them grow in confidence. I would also, but sometimes I think I can be scary. I don't want to be scary, but sometimes talking to the teacher is scary. So I don't know, those are some ideas. Yeah, Yvonne, do you want to add anything to our 5? Message 5?
Hey, Mary, there's a question in the chat from Carol Maroto, 1151. How would you provide feedback during oral production testing in a way that long-term memory could be activated?
Hi, Carol, what a great question. I love that question. I'm thinking about the number of elements in the question, right? So if it's testing, I don't know what kind of testing you're thinking about doing, but I'm going to create a context in my brain and share it with you. Let's say that we're doing an oral production test in high school, and the students are doing a role play. And actually, I just thought of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And and when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you can like call a friend for help, or you can ask for a hint or something like that. I think it'd be really cool in our oral production testing if the students were actually given the chance to get some support once or twice in the test. So if they know, like say, so I'm doing a role play, and the role play is a restaurant scene, and I'm with my partner, and I freeze. I'm a student and I freeze. And what you're trying to get me to do is tap into my long-term memory. I probably froze because it didn't pop up. And so I also could have frozen because of an emotional something, maybe maybe, I don't know. There's many reasons I can freeze in the middle of an oral test. But I'm doing this role play about a restaurant with somebody, I freeze. So I know I have 2 options, 2 chances to get support. Like, why not? So maybe the first thing is, I use one of my chances. I pick up my little support and I say, I'd like some support right now. One little thing. That might be kind of an interesting way. It's an interesting way. Like maybe I could, and the teacher would give a prompt to try and help the student access their long-term memory. I don't know. What do you think about that, Yvonne? And everybody?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Mary. And I'm gonna keep reading the messages and what ideas teachers are sharing in the chat. And there's one comment from Delia Hurtado.
I see that. Okay, I'm going to go through the comments you sent me because I didn't really respond to more of them, the feedback ones.
All right, let me read these, Delia.
Okay, Robert wrote about agreeing if you don't provide positive feedback, we would be affecting students' confidence. Yes, exactly. And it's like, Robert, I'm thinking about the balance, at least 2 positive to 1 challenge. And kid-centered attainment, feedback is the driving force that transforms experience into knowledge. Yes, absolutely. My dog is giving me feedback. He still wants to go out for a walk. It not only corrects errors, but bridges the gap, yes, between what the student knows and what they're expecting to achieve. And it helps them work in that middle area, like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the I don't know it, I kind of know it, I really know it. The feedback helps me work through moving from that 1, 2, 3. And then Dahlia writes, if we view feedback only as error correction, we remain on the surface. Absolutely, because we're not in the student's experience, we're more in the content. If the content is right or wrong, and then I give feedback. Feedback is the most powerful tool I have as a teacher because it helps me connect with the student's learning process, right? So the true power lies in its ability to calibrate the relationship and the flow of information over the long term. Delia, yes, super powerful. Thank you for that. Let's look at feedback with love. Yes. Okay. Positive, necessary. Feedback needs to be safe. Yes, great comments here, people. Yeah. It's important to make feedback fun and available to the rest of the class. Ooh, I love that. Yes. I think that's important. That it's an interesting tension and balance, right? I need feedback to be safe, and even though it's maybe geared towards an individual, it's also, in order to have a learning community, we all need to have access to learning about each other's feedback, because we hear each other, we see each other. Venga, come in, venga. Sorry, my dog is. He's like, it's really late for this walk. It's 11:30. We're supposed to go for a walk around 10. Dogs are very, talking about predictable structure, right? He's my one predictable structure here. Thank you for my detours. If a student gives an unclear answer, instead of saying that's wrong, a teacher might say, can you explain your idea more clearly? Yes, absolutely. Recasting, absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. I envision a world filled with juicy feedback where learners are eager to get feedback and then do something with it, right? Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much. Let's go back. Let's go back. Last chance, you guys, last chance if you want to be in the raffle. I'm hoping the handout is working for you. There's a lot more in the handout. It's not perfect, but it's got a lot of great information for sure. It's 11:33. So I'm going to talk a little bit more, and then we're just going to open up for questions. I want to remind you the oral production development cycle, that it's like a cycle that we go through. Everything is surrounded in safety, and that we act, we scaffold, we model, we give feedback. So this is sort of our model for the oral production development cycle. I told you I was going to repeat this over and over again, and I am. Again, we have these 5 key messages and actually it's 6 messages here, because the message here that small shifts grounded in safety, curiosity, and playfulness will empower our students to find, explore, use, and live their voice in English. That to me is the biggest thing. Small shifts in me as a teacher and what I'm working with my students will empower them. So those are our messages, and I am so curious now. What about next week? And let me go ahead and get onto the next slide so you can answer. What are 1 or 2 things that you would like to implement next week in regards to your students' oral production, or next month, or the week after? Like, what are you feeling? And it could be something you already do, or it could be something that you would like to try. It's all stuff in your zone of proximal development. What would you like to do? And I'm going to switch over now to our Mentimeter. Of course, we can look at the interesting. Are you able to see the slide? Let's see. Go back. Next slide. Something's happened here. Let me look at that slide. I'm wondering if it's not formatted right. Open-ended question. Okay. Okay, it should be. Okay, it should work. Let's try again. Okay. What would you like to do next week? You guys, the kids will be here next week. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Excited. I'm excited. I'm not sure if any of our national advisors would like to unmute and say anything at this moment. You are very welcome to, and things that you're noticing or things that you've noticed here, what teachers would like to do next week. Feel free if you would. I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't plan for that, but it would be great if you feel like saying something. Games, tell a joke. Yes, healthy humor can really create safety. Unhealthy humor makes it really scary in the classroom, but healthy humor can really create safety. Oh, great. Other ways of modeling. Besides all what you said about write all mistakes, yeah, exactly. Write the mistakes on a whiteboard and have the students correct them together. Absolutely. I love that technique. It's one of the safest ways to get them to notice and focus together. Yeah. Ooh, ludic learning. Yes. Competition, outside activities. Yes. Improve safety. I'd like to interview a strategy for shy and introvert students to talk, maybe in pairs. That's beautiful. I want to tell you a story. Many years ago, 20 years ago, I was living in Rio de Janeiro, and I was doing a teacher. We had a teacher development project at a binational center, kind of like the Centro Cultural. And we had 180 teachers taking a TESOL certificate course with us. So we went, I observed all the teachers. And there was a teacher who had been teaching probably 30 years. And she tried out pair work. And in one of our sessions, she said, you know, the only time I ever did pair work was when the supervisor came to observe, because I knew I had to do it because they required me to do it. But I hated pair work because I couldn't get the students to do it. It didn't work for me. But now that I've experienced pair work, I get it and I'm using it now. And her boss heard that comment and her boss was so mad. So mad, but it was such a beautiful moment. Because, you know, as teachers, we do what makes sense to us. And if we don't like pair work, we're not going to make pair work work in our classroom. So really, what's really important is for you to reflect on what do you believe is really going to work and how can you help make that happen? And then also a little bit of a stretch for you. What do you want to stretch yourself in a little bit? Say, well, I don't really like pair work, but I'm going to keep trying it until I make it work. Or I'm going to keep trying and experimenting until X happens. I think that as a teacher, I need a balance of doing things I know work with me and my students, and then stretching a little bit. So thank you for this. 252 people telling us what they're going to do next week and the next coming weeks. That's beautiful. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Okay, I have another slide here that I'd like to invite you to is feedback for us. And yeah, I'm curious whether you agree or disagree with these statements. The webinar was useful to you. You understand SLA concepts clearer. You can apply them. Were they relevant? Do you feel more confident in designing tasks that support oral language development? And is the handout useful? The toolkit useful? So I'll wait for a few responses there. I'll check some of the questions in our YouTube. Let's see, the Mentimeter. Oh, hello, Christian. Thank you for that. Nice. Ooh, puppets. Gerardo, I love puppets too. My dog is learning too, absolutely. Maylin asks the ultimate question. How do you deal with low or no interest? What do you do when students don't care at all? I have a slightly radical answer, I think, to that. And I have to tell you, my answer comes from an essay that I read by Herbert Cole. I read it in, I think, I was teaching at a university in Japan, Osaka, Japan, and I was teaching writing. And, you know, many people don't like to write. And so I was struggling with this whole thing. What do I do when my students have zero interest in writing? And in order for them to pass the class, they have to write. And I read this essay by Herbert Cole. This was 1995 or 6, I think. And it was called, "I Won't Learn From You." And the gist of the essay, or the essence of that essay that really impacted me and helped me a lot, was that the idea is that the student has a right to not learn. They absolutely have a right to not learn. And so if I recognize that right, like, you come to my class, you say, "Look, I'm not learning from you, Mary. I don't want to learn. This is not for me. This is boring. I don't care about English. I'm never going to speak English. It's never going to be useful." My first thing that I do is I say, "Okay, you have the right to not learn." And then I get into, my husband used to call me a great manipulator, because I get into my mode. It might be manipulation, but I think about, how can I honor and respect? If they don't want to learn, they don't want to learn. And how can I make them thirsty? How can I create thirst? So, we have a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? Can I make them thirsty? What do I do to make a horse thirsty? I give them salt. If you go to a bar, what do they do to make you thirsty? They give you popcorn. They give you salted peanuts. They give you salty food, and then you're going to drink more. So when I have a student who doesn't want to learn, the first thing I do, with love, humility, kindness, is say, "You totally have the right to not learn." And then I think about how to make them thirsty. And that answer really depends on the students, right? With my writing students, one of the things I did to help make them thirsty, I shared with them that I hated writing, and then I never thought I was a good writer, and then I wrote something. Actually, I shared with them I loved writing as a child, and then I hated writing when I got into high school and university. And so I shared my own journey. And sometimes the learner can connect with our own journeys. I also shared with them that they never know. Like, I tried to project in the future. It's like, okay, you say you don't need English right now, but you never know. You absolutely never know. There's a guy I live in a little village of 500 people. I live a kilometer outside of a little village of 500 people in San Ramon, near La Fortuna. There's a guy here who is like a mountain guy. Like, he doesn't wear a shirt, he's big, and he's not very social in terms of our standard social norms. And many years ago, he came, he works hard, he does a lot of agricultural work, he tinkers a lot. And he came many years ago, he said, "Mary, do you think a person like me could learn English?" And I was like, "Of course you can. Of course you can learn English. I believe everybody can learn English if we co-create the right circumstances." And he's amazing. He speaks a lot of English now. And everybody in our little town is like, it's amazing that he speaks English. He doesn't speak with grammatical accuracy. He doesn't care much about accuracy. He cares completely about meaning. His name is Danielon. We call him Danielon. So Danielon is, when he talks, he gets his meaning across. He has the vocabulary, and he really cares. So he was thirsty. He's somebody who was really thirsty. And so that's my thoughts in that question is, how can I respect my students' right to not learn, and how can I make them thirsty? So thank you for that question. Yvonne, would you like to add anything to any of the questions that have come up?
Hey, Mary, thank you so much. I shared questions with you, so you can choose some of the questions and answer them. The great questions in the chat and different questions. Before you you answer any of the questionnaire, I would like to share a thought in the chat in Spanish from one of the participants that says, La interacción oral es fundamental en el proceso de inglés porque permite que el estudiante practique el idioma en contextos reales, desarrolla fluidez y gana confianza al comunicarse. And I like this because this is what we are promoting, when participants feel safe, they're able to share, and we welcome English, Spanish, because that's a starting point in Spanish. So that's great to receive this comment in the chat. So Mayor, over to you to answer any of the questions shared with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm a big believer in multilingual life. So I appreciate hearing in Spanish. I appreciate hearing in English. Yeah, beautiful. Let's see. Great feedback here. These 85 responses. You can continue to write your answers about what you would like us or the MEP advisors to know in regard to this webinar and oral production. We will share those answers with them. I am going to go back now, though, to our, let's see if there's anything else. The raffle. I'm going to do the raffle. And then after that, I will see what else we can answer in the questions for sure. The other thing that we can do with the questions in the chat, I would be happy to create a video answering some of those questions, and I can share it someplace, because I think those questions are really important to think through, and I would be happy to do that. Maybe I could just share it on my social media. How about that? The raffle, what we're going to share with you all, we have 4 options for learning online with us. We do a lot of work with teachers. We have an integrated skills development where it's class where we're really focusing on speaking, vocabulary, and grammar, and developing our English. We have a TOEIC prep circle where we work on developing our test taking skills for the TOEIC. And then we have a conversation circle where we get together and we have these short sprints of conversation and vocabulary. And we do that once a week. We also have private tutoring, but the raffle, we want to raffle away the first 3 options. So let's take a quick look at our numbers here. Woo, 1,175. Okay, so what I would like to do, I'm going to stop sharing so we can't see. And I'm going to ask between 0 and 1,000. 1,175. Could somebody in the let's see, the YouTube chat, the first 9 numbers will be the raffle winners. So you need to write, and we need people to write numbers. Does that make sense? You write a number between 0 and 1,175. What are the first 9 numbers that come into that YouTube? That will be the people that are the winners. Let's wrap up. I'm starving. Oh my gosh, it's time to eat. I agree. Okay, I see number 33 from Freddie. Yvonne, you want to tell me what other numbers come in?
Of course.
It can be a number between 0 and 1,177. 1,177.
777, 188, 8.
Oh, hold on, 33.
Okay, we have 9, right? Number 2 is 100.
Okay.
Number 3 is 777.
777,
Number 4 is 138. Number 5 is number 8.
8.
The next is 111.
Okay.
And
how about 1,000? 300 what? 325. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more.
700.
Let's make it a big one. Oh yeah, 700.
101. 1001.
1001. Okay. Oh, I love all these numbers coming in. All right, so let's see. Number 33. Woo. Number 33. I have to go all the way to the top. Number 33. And we'll contact you, but I'm just going to say the names. Yvonne Ramirez Morales, we will contact you. What's the next number, Yvonne? In order?
In order, okay.
Oh, wait,
so
oh, wait, I'm sorry.
We had
No, I got
hundreds
them.
of
I got them.
numbers.
Okay, I've written them all down. Hold on.
Okay, great.
777 is 777 is Pamela Cristina Araya Mejias. We will contact you. And the next number I have here is 100. Ooh, I have to go all the way back up. On number 100 is Hugo Ramirez Mendez. We will contact you. And then we have 138 and then number 8. 138. $138 is Jimmy Salazar Miranda. We will contact you. Number 8 is Dixie Santana Mendoza. We will also contact you. And then finally, let's see, we have 8, 111, 1000. Let's see, 1000 is, number 1000 is Adriana Mora Vindas. And 325 and 101. 3101. Okay, Karen Patricia Solis, Barca, I think. We will contact you. And finally, we have the last one, I think. 325. All right. We will contact everybody who has won. And it is, thank you all for your answers there. Johnny Brenes Quesada, we will contact you. So beautiful. The last thing I want to do with you all is share our gratitude. Oh, hold on a second. Just a quick thank you for you all to let's see. There we go. This is just our thank you. We really appreciate your work today and throughout the year. Speaking is not the reward at the end of learning. It's the pathway through learning and to learning. So thank you for your work, your care, your commitment to students. If you want to contact us, there's our WhatsApp and our emails. And also in the handout, you'll also find ways to contact us. I want to thank Yvonne. I love working with you. I'm so grateful, and it's been really great to share this webinar with you. I want to thank MEP for the invitation to be here, and thank you all. So we have 5 minutes left. We can answer some questions. Oh, somebody needed time. It's our time. Inez, you want? Okay. All right. Anything else that you need from us now? Thank you all so much. Have a great start to the school year. Yvonne, any closing words from you?
I would like to echo your gratitude to the 2,500 plus teachers connected today, and then very active participation in the chat with great questions and comments. So that's great. And I hope we can have more opportunities, I4CL with MEP, doing more sessions in the, the school year. So yeah, have a great, joyful, fruitful school year starting now. Thank you, Mayor. What about you? I think it's Randall needs to do a closing too.
Thank you very much, Juan. To all teachers, thank you very much for your questions and comments and participation. Thank you very much again, Mary and Ivan. Before we conclude, we would like to sincerely thank all officials from the Ministry of Public Education who joined us for this webinar. We would also like to remind you of the importance of completing the attendance register, whose link is available in the chat. This registration is an essential requirement for the IDP Ladislao Gámez Solano to be able to issue the digital certificate of participation for each professional development activity carried out during the Continuing Education February 2026. For this reason, we kindly ask each participating official to complete through the provided link both the attendance register and the corresponding evaluation. Please remember that this webinar will be available on the IDP YouTube channel, and we also encourage you to visit the Continuing Education website for additional information and resources. This brings our activity to a close. Once again, thank you very much for your participation and have a very good week.
Thank you so much. Have a great year and have a nice lunch.